The corridor was silent. Too silent. James had walked these halls for 12 years. He knew every creak in the floorboards, every shadow that moved when the moon came through the windows. But tonight, something felt different. His footsteps echoed against the old stone walls. The portraits of former royals watched him pass. Their eyes seemed to follow his movements. Windsor Castle was always quiet after midnight, but this was different. This was the kind of silence that made his skin prickle. He stopped outside the door. The Queen's private room had been sealed since her passing. No one was allowed inside, not the staff, not the cleaners, not even senior members of the royal household. The room was to remain untouched, a place of memory, a place of respect. But the door was open, just slightly. A thin line of darkness between the door and the frame. James felt his heart kick against his ribs. His hand moved to the radio on his belt. Protocol said he should call this in, report it immediately, but something stopped him. Maybe it was curiosity. Maybe it was duty. Or maybe it was the strange feeling that whatever was on the other side of that door would change everything. He pushed it open slowly. The hinges made no sound. The room beyond was dark, but his eyes adjusted quickly. The curtains were drawn. The furniture sat exactly as it had been left. The Queen's reading glasses still rested on the bedside table. A book lay face down, waiting for a reader who would never return. Everything looked normal, peaceful even. But then he saw it. A small red light, blinking, just once, then darkness again. James stepped inside. His breath felt too loud in the stillness. The light blinked again. It was coming from behind the photograph on the dresser. Silver-framed picture of the Queen and Prince Philip, smiling, young, full of life. His hand trembled as he reached for it. The frame was heavier than it looked. He tilted it forward, and there it was. A camera. Small. Professional. The kind used for surveillance. As the red light blinked again. Recording. Watching, waiting, James felt cold. His mind raced. Who would put this here, and why? This wasn't some random break-in. This was deliberate. This was planned. Before you find out what happens next, hit that subscribe button. You won't believe where this story goes. He lifted the camera carefully. It was still warm, still active. Someone had been here recently. Maybe they were still in the castle. His fingers found the power button. The screen lit up. What he saw made his blood run cold. Footage. Hours of it. The room from different angles, the door opening and closing, and then a face. Someone he recognized. Someone who should never have been in this room. Camilla, the Queen consort herself. Walking through the room, opening drawers, looking through papers. Her expression was focused, determined. She wasn't just visiting. She was searching for something. James felt dizzy. This couldn't be real. This couldn't be happening. But the footage didn't lie. The timestamp showed it was from 3 nights ago. Long after the official seal had been placed on the room, he ejected the memory card, slipped it into his pocket. The camera went back exactly where he found it. The photograph returned to its place. Everything had to look untouched, but as he turned to leave, he heard something. Footsteps. Coming down the corridor. Fast. Purposeful. Someone was coming. James barely had time to step behind the heavy curtain before the door swung open. Light spilled into the room. He held his breath. His heart hammered so hard he was sure whoever had entered could hear it. Through the gap in the curtain, he saw a figure move toward the dresser, toward the photograph, toward the camera. The figure reached for it with trembling hands. And then, James saw who it was. It was Camilla. She moved quickly across the room. Her face was pale in the moonlight. Her eyes darted to the door, then back to the dresser. She wore no jewelry, no crown. Just a simple dark coat over what looked like nightclothes. Her hair was loose around her shoulders. She reached for the photograph, lifted it. Found the camera. James watched through the curtain. Every muscle in his body was tense. He didn't dare breathe too deeply. The fabric was thick, but not thick enough. If she looked closely, she would see him. Camilla's hands shook as she checked the camera. Her fingers moved over the buttons. Checking the footage, checking the memory card. Then she stopped. Her whole body went rigid. The memory card was gone. James saw her face change. Fear flashed across her features, then anger, and something worse. Panic. She set the camera down, looked around the room. Her eyes swept across every surface, every shadow. For a terrible moment, her gaze lingered on the curtains where James stood hidden. Didn't move, didn't blink. Then she turned and rushed from the room. James waited, counted to 60, then 60 more. When he was sure she was gone, he stepped out from behind the curtain. His legs felt weak. His mind was spinning with questions. Why would Camilla put a camera in the late Queen's room? What was she looking for? And what would happen now that she knew someone had taken the evidence? He left the room, locked the door behind him. His hands were still shaking as he continued his rounds. But his mind wasn't on the corridors or the paintings or the normal sounds of the castle at night. It was on that memory card in his pocket, on what he should do with it. By morning, James had made his decision. He couldn't go to his supervisor. Not yet. This was too big, too dangerous. He needed someone he could trust, someone who would know what to do. He thought of Margaret. She had worked in the royal household for 30 years. She had served the late Queen directly. She knew the family, knew the secrets. If anyone could help him, it was her. He found her in the staff kitchen during the breakfast shift. She was pouring tea. Her movements were precise, practiced. She looked up when he entered and smiled. "James, you look terrible, rough night." He glanced around. 2 other staff members were at the far end of the room. Too far to hear, but still too close. "I need to talk to you," he said quietly, privately. Something in his voice made her smile fade. She set down the teapot, nodded. The garden. 10 minutes. The morning air was cold. Frost still clung to the grass. They walked far from the building, far from windows and doors and people who might listen. James pulled out the memory card, showed it to her, told her everything: the open door, the camera, the footage, Camilla's midnight visit. Margaret's face went pale. She looked at the tiny card like it was a bomb. "Do you understand what you have here?" she whispered. "Do you understand what this means?" "That's why I came to you." She was quiet for a long moment, her eyes distant, thinking. Then she looked at him with an expression he had never seen before. Fear. Real, genuine fear. "The Queen's will," she said softly. There were rumors. Before she died, she had made changes. Written things down. Things about the succession. Things about Camilla. James felt cold. What kind of things? No one knows. The official will was read. But some of us who were close to her thought there might be more. A private letter, instructions. Something she wanted kept safe. You think Camilla was looking for that? Margaret nodded slowly. If she was willing to plant a camera to find it, then whatever is in that letter must be devastating. They stood in silence. The wind moved through the bare trees. In the distance, the castle loomed against the gray sky. Beautiful, ancient, full of secrets. "What do we do?" James asked. Margaret looked at him. Her eyes were hard now, determined. "We watch the footage every second of it. Then we decide who we can trust." That evening, they met in Margaret's small cottage on the castle grounds. The curtains were drawn, the door locked. James plugged the memory card into Margaret's old laptop. The footage began to play at first. Showed nothing but an empty room. Hours passed and fast forward. Then the door opened. Camilla entered. She moved straight to the wardrobe, opened it, pulled out boxes, went through them methodically. The papers scattered across the floor. She was looking for something specific, something she hadn't found. Margaret leaned closer to the screen. Look at her face. She's desperate. The footage continued. Camilla searched for nearly an hour. Then she stopped, stood in the middle of the room, spoke. At first, James thought she was talking to herself. But then he realized she was on the phone. Her lips moved. He couldn't hear the words, but they could read some of them. Margaret grabbed James's arm. "Go back. Rewind it there. Stop." On the screen, Camilla's mouth formed clear words. Someone must have moved it already. Then a pause, listening to whoever was on the other end. If it gets out, everything changes. You understand? Everything. Margaret's grip tightened. Her voice was barely a whisper. This isn't just about Camilla. Someone else is involved. James felt a chill run down his spine. Who? Margaret's face was grim. We're about to find out. They watched the rest of the footage in silence. Camilla's phone conversation lasted only a few more seconds. Then she ended the call, looked around the room one more time, and left. But the camera kept recording. 3 minutes passed, and 5. The room remained empty. The shadows didn't move. James reached to stop the video. Wait, Margaret said. Keep watching. 8 minutes after Camilla left, the door opened again. A man entered, tall, well-dressed. He moved with confidence. With authority? He didn't search like Camilla had. He walked directly to the bookshelf, pulled out a specific book, a thick volume with a dark blue cover. He opened it. Inside was hollow, a hiding place, but it was empty. The man's shoulders sagged. He checked again. His movements became frantic, desperate. He searched the shelf, the books around it. Nothing. Then he pulled out his phone, made a call. The angle of the camera caught his face perfectly. James felt his stomach drop. That's Sir Anthony Pemberton, Margaret whispered. The Queen's private secretary. He was with her until the very end. On screen, Sir Anthony spoke quickly into the phone. They couldn't hear the words, but his expression said everything. Anger, fear, confusion. He ended the call, looked around the room. Then he did something strange. He walked to the window, opened it, stood there for a long moment, as if he were thinking or remembering. Then he closed it, left the room. The video continued for another hour, showing nothing but an empty room. James stopped the footage. So both Camilla and Sir Anthony were looking for the same thing. Something hidden in that book. Something that was already gone, Margaret added, which means someone took it before either of them got there. The Queen's letter. Margaret nodded. It has to be. But who has it now? Who got there first? The question hung in the air. Outside, night had fallen. The cottage felt smaller, darker. James's phone buzzed. A text message from his supervisor. His heart jumped. Report to the security office immediately. Margaret saw his face. What is it? They're calling me in. He stood. His mind raced. Did they know about the memory card? Had Camilla reported something? I have to go. Keep this safe. Don't let anyone know you have it. He left the cottage and walked quickly toward the main building. The windows glowed with warm light. But James felt no warmth, only cold dread. The security office was on the ground floor. The door was closed. He knocked. Come in. The supervisor sat behind the desk, but he wasn't alone. 2 other men were there. Men James didn't recognize. They wore dark suits, government badges clipped to their belts. James, sit down. He sat. His mouth was dry. The memory card felt like it was burning a hole in his pocket. We've had a report, his supervisor continued, about unusual activity last night, near the Queen's sealed chambers. James kept his face neutral. What kind of activity? One of the men in suits leaned forward. We have reason to believe someone accessed that room without authorization. The door was found unlocked this morning. I did my rounds last night, James said carefully. I checked all the doors. Everything was secure. The suited man's eyes were cold. Are you certain? Yes, sir. A long silence. James could hear his own heartbeat, could feel sweat on his palms. Then his supervisor spoke. There's something else. The Queen Consort's security detail reported that she seemed distressed last night. She mentioned something about a possible security breach. You didn't see anything? Anyone who shouldn't have been there? James thought fast. If he told the truth now, he would have to explain why he hadn't reported it immediately. Why he had taken the memory card. Why he had waited, and if these men were working with Camilla, telling them could be dangerous. No, sir. Nothing unusual. The suited man stood. walked around the desk, stopped directly in front of James. If you remember anything at all, you report it immediately. Understood? Yes, sir. This is a matter of national security. Loyalty to the crown isn't just a phrase. It's a duty. James nodded. The man studied him for another moment, then stepped back. You're dismissed. James left the office. His legs felt weak. He walked quickly through the corridors, out into the cold night air. He needed to get back to Margaret. Needed to figure out what to do, but as he crossed the courtyard, someone stepped out of the shadows. A woman. Young, dark hair. She held up a hand. James, don't be afraid. I need to talk to you. He stopped. His hand moved toward his radio. Please, just listen. My name is Alina. I was the Queen's nurse. I was with her in her final days. James studied her face. He recognized her now. He had seen her around the castle before the Queen's death, but she had disappeared afterward. He assumed she had left, found other work. What do you want? Alina glanced around nervously. I know what you found. The camera, the memory card. I know, because I'm the one who put the camera there. James felt his blood run cold. Why? Because I needed proof. The Queen told me things before she died. Things that frightened her. She said she had written a letter, instructions, but she was worried someone would try to destroy it after she was gone. Elena's eyes filled with tears. People she trusted. People close to her. She made me promise to watch, to record, to make sure the truth didn't disappear. Where's the letter now? I took it. The night she died, I hid it somewhere safe, but now I'm scared. They know someone has it. They're looking for me. James grabbed her arm gently. We need to get you somewhere safe. I have someone who can help. They hurried through the grounds toward Margaret's cottage. The windows were dark. James knocked softly. No answer. He knocked again. Harder. The door swung open. Margaret stood there, but her face was wrong, pale, terrified. Behind her, a figure emerged from the shadows, Sir Anthony Pemberton, and he was holding a gun. Come inside. Both of you, Sir Anthony's voice was calm. Calm. The gun in his hand didn't waver. James felt Alina freeze beside him. He raised his hand slowly. Sir Anthony, whatever this is, we can talk about it. Inside now. They stepped into the cottage. The door closed behind them. Margaret stood against the wall. Her eyes were red. She had been crying. Sir Anthony gestured toward the couch with the gun. Sit. They sat. James's mind raced. The gun looked real. Government issue? Sir Anthony had access to weapons. Access to people who could make problems disappear. The memory card, Sir Anthony said. Give it to me. James didn't move. Why? What's on that letter that's worth all this? Sir Anthony's face was gray. He looked older than James remembered. Tired. Haunted. You don't understand what you've stumbled into. This isn't about power or money or scandal. This is about protecting the crown, protecting the country. By threatening people with a gun? Elena's voice was sharp. The Queen trusted you. She believed you would honor her wishes. Something flickered across Sir Anthony's face. Pain. Guilt. I loved her, he said quietly. I served her for 25 years. But some wishes can't be honored. Not when they would tear everything apart. Margaret spoke for the first time. Her voice shook. What did the letter say? Sir Anthony was silent for a long moment. Then he lowered the gun slightly. Not enough to give them a chance to run, but enough to show he was tired of holding it. She had doubts, he said. About the succession. About Camilla becoming queen consort. She wrote that she believed history was repeating itself. That the crown was making the same mistake it made with Edward and Wallis Simpson. James felt his breath catch. She wanted to change the succession. No, she couldn't do that. But she could express her concerns. Leave evidence of her wishes. She wrote that Camilla should never be crowned queen, that the title should die with her. And you think that would tear the country apart? Alina asked. The public barely accepted Camilla as queen consort. If the late queen's final words rejected her, it would cause a constitutional crisis. The king would be forced to choose between his mother's memory and his wife. The press would turn it into a war. "So you were going to destroy the letter?" James said. "I was trying to find it before anyone else did. Before it could be leaked. Before it could cause damage that can't be repaired." Sir Anthony looked at Alina. "But you took it. Where is it?" Alina lifted her chin. "Somewhere you'll never find it. The Queen made me promise. She said if anything happened to her, if people tried to silence her wishes, I should make sure the truth came out. You don't understand what you're doing. I understand perfectly. You're afraid. All of you, Camilla, you. Everyone who benefits from keeping things quiet. But the Queen deserves to have her voice heard." Sir Anthony raised the gun again. His hand trembled. "Give me the letter. Tell me where it is, please. I don't want to hurt anyone." "Then don't," Margaret said softly. "Put the gun down. We can figure this out together. There's nothing to figure out. The letter has to be destroyed. It's the only way." James saw the desperation in the man's eyes. The fear Sir Anthony wasn't a villain. He was a man who believed he was protecting something bigger than himself, something worth killing for, but he was also a man on the edge. "What about the camera footage?" James asked. "Even if you destroy the letter, we have proof that Camilla broke into a sealed room. That you did too. That's still a crime. Footage can be explained, denied. The letter is different. It's evidence. Proof in the Queen's own hand." Lena stood up slowly. "You want the letter? Fine, I'll take you to it. But only if you let them go." Margaret and James had nothing to do with this. They were just trying to help. Sir Anthony studied her. "You expect me to trust you? You don't have a choice. Kill us all, and you'll never find it." The Queen was smart. She made sure I wasn't the only one who knew where it was hidden. A lie. James could tell from the slight tremor in Elena's voice. "But it was a convincing lie, sir," Anthony considered, then nodded. "Fine. But they come with us. All of you. And if you're lying to me, everyone pays the price." They left the cottage together. The castle grounds were dark, silent. A few windows glowed in the distance. But most of the building was asleep. Alina led them toward the old chapel. It stood at the edge of the grounds. Stone walls covered in ivy. Stained glass windows that looked black in the darkness. "In there?" Sir Anthony asked. "The Queen used to pray there. Every Sunday morning, alone. She said it was the one place she felt truly at peace." They entered the chapel. The air inside was cold. Smelled of old wood and candle wax. Moonlight filtered through the windows, cast colored shadows across the stone floor. Alina walked to the altar. Behind it was a small door, a storage room for candles and prayer books. She opened it, reached inside, pulled out a wooden box. "It's in here." Sir Anthony stepped forward, reached for the box, and that's when the lights came on. Sir Anthony Pemberton. "Put down the weapon." Armed police officers poured in from every entrance. Weapons drawn. Surrounding them, Sir Anthony froze. His face went white. The gun clattered to the floor. At the chapel entrance, a figure stepped into the light, Camilla. She walked forward slowly. Her face was cold, controlled. Behind her were more officers, and someone else. The King Charles looked older than James had ever seen him. His face was drawn, tired, but his eyes were sharp. "Mother left me 2 letters, he said quietly. "One for the public, one for me. The private one told me everything. About her concerns, about what she wanted done." He looked at Sir Anthony. "At Alina, at the wooden box. She also told me. She trusted 2 people completely to protect her wishes. Her nurse, and a young guard who checked on her room every night." Charles's eyes met James's. "She wrote your name. Said you were the kind of man who would do the right thing, no matter the cost." James felt tears sting his eyes. He had never spoken to the Queen, never been more than a shadow in the corridors. But she had known him, had trusted him, Alina, Charles continued. The letter she gave you. I need to see it. Alina opened the box. Inside was an envelope, sealed with red wax. The royal seal. She handed it to Charles. He opened it carefully. Read in silence. When he finished, his hands were shaking. She was right, he whispered, about everything. Charles looked up from the letter. His eyes found Camilla's. She stood perfectly still, but James saw something flicker across her face. Fear and something else. Resignation, you knew, Charles said. You knew Mother had written this. That's why you went into her room. Camilla's voice was steady. I knew she had concerns. I thought if I could find the letter first, we could address them privately. As a family, not as a public spectacle, by destroying it. By understanding it, Camilla stepped forward. I never wanted to erase her voice. I wanted to protect you. Protect us. This family has been through enough pain. And Sir Anthony? Charles turned to the man who still stood frozen. Officers had taken the gun. Put him in handcuffs. What was your role in this? Sir Anthony's voice was barely audible. I thought I was protecting the crown. I thought if the letter became public, it would destroy everything we've built. Everything she worked for, by threatening innocent people, by pulling a gun on them. I never meant... ... Sir Anthony's voice broke. I just wanted to serve her. One last time. Charles was quiet for a long moment. The chapel felt heavy with silence. With history. With decisions that would change everything. Mother's letter, Charles said slowly, expresses concerns about the speed of Camilla's acceptance as queen consort. She believed the public needed more time, more understanding of who Camilla truly is. He looked at his wife. She also wrote that she believed you were good for me, that you made me a better man, but that the title of queen carried a weight that shouldn't be rushed. Camilla's eyes glistened with tears. She was right. I told you that. Years ago. But you insisted. Because I love you. Because you earned it. Love and earning aren't the same as timing. Camilla's voice was soft. Your mother understood that. She wasn't rejecting me. She was protecting the crown. Protecting us both. Charles folded the letter carefully. She also wrote instructions. Private wishes about how this should be handled. He looked at Alina. At James. At Margaret. She trusted you three to make sure her voice was heard. Not silenced. Not twisted. Just heard. What do you want us to do? Alina asked. Charles thought for a moment. Then he made a decision that James would never forget. The letter stays private. For now it was meant for me, and I will honor Mother's wishes in my own way. But the camera footage... He glanced at Camilla. That becomes part of the official investigation into the security breach. Camilla's face went pale. Charles... You broke into a sealed room. You tampered with evidence. Those are crimes. Even for a queen consort, I was trying to protect us. But Mother spent 70 years teaching me one lesson above all others. The crown isn't above the law. We serve the people, not ourselves. Officers moved toward Camilla. She held up a hand. I understand. I'm sorry. I should have trusted you. Trusted that we could face this together. We'll face it together. But we'll face it honestly. Camilla nodded. She walked with the officers willingly, her head held high. At the door, she turned back. She loved you, you know. Your mother. That letter might have concerns, but it comes from love. Don't forget that. And she was gone. Charles stood alone in the chapel, the letter still in his hands. James, Alina, and Margaret waited. Unsure what to do? Unsure what came next. Finally, Charles spoke. Thank you, all of you, for doing what was right, even when it was hard. Even when it was dangerous, Your Majesty, James said quietly. What happens now? Now. Charles looked at the letter again. Now, I honor my mother's wishes. In my own way. I'll ask Parliament to delay Camilla's official coronation as queen consort. She'll remain as she is. But the ceremony, the crown, the full title, that will wait. How long? However long the public needs. however long feels right. Mother wrote that the crown serves at the pleasure of the people. It's time we remembered that. He looked at Sir Anthony, still in handcuffs. As for you, you served my mother faithfully for decades. But what you did tonight was unforgivable. You'll face charges, but I'll make sure your years of service are remembered alongside your mistakes. Oh, Sir Anthony nodded. Tears ran down his face. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. So am I. The officers took Sir Anthony away. The chapel emptied slowly, until it was just Charles, James, Alina, and Margaret. There's one more thing, Charles said. Mother's letter mentioned that she wanted certain people protected, people who showed loyalty and courage when it mattered most. He looked at each of them in turn. James, you'll be promoted to head of security for the royal household. Alina, there's a position opening in the royal medical staff, if you want it. And Margaret, he smiled. Mother wrote that you were her most trusted friend. I'd like you to help me organize her personal papers. Make sure her legacy is preserved correctly. It would be an honor. One condition, Charles added. The camera footage. The memory card. Everything related to tonight stays confidential. Not because we're hiding it, but because some truths need time to breathe before they're exposed to the world. What about the investigation? James asked. It will proceed. But with discretion, the public will know there was a security breach. That measures are being taken. But the details, those stay within these walls. Alina stepped forward. And if we don't agree? If we think the public deserves to know everything? Charles didn't hesitate. Then you're free to tell them. I won't stop you, won't punish you, but I'm asking you to trust me. Give me time to handle this the right way. Give Camilla a chance to face her mistakes with dignity. The three of them looked at each other. A silent conversation. After everything they'd been through together, they were a team. Finally, Alina nodded. We trust you, but we'll be watching, making sure you keep your word. I wouldn't expect anything less. Charles held out his hand. Alina shook it. Then Margaret. Then James. Thank you, the king said again. My mother chose well. He left the chapel. His footsteps echoed on the stone floor. Faded into silence, James, Alina, and Margaret stood together in the quiet. Do you think he'll really do it? Alina asked. Keep his word? Margaret smiled. His mother trusted him. That's enough for me. James looked at the altar. The colored light from the stained glass windows. The peace of the old stone. She knew, he said softly. The Queen, she knew this would all happen. That's why she planned it this way. She was always 10 steps ahead, Margaret agreed, even at the end. They left the chapel together. The night air was cold, clean. Above them, stars filled the sky. James thought about the Queen, about her final wishes, about the trust she'd placed in him, and he made a promise to himself. To her memory, whatever happened next, he would make sure her voice was heard. 3 months passed. The official investigation concluded quietly. The press reported a minor security breach at Windsor Castle. Several staff members were reprimanded. Security protocols were updated. Nothing scandalous. Nothing that would shake the foundations of the monarchy, but inside the palace, everything had changed. James stood at his new desk in the security office. Head of Royal Household Security. The title still felt strange, heavy, but he wore it with pride. His phone buzzed. A message from Alina. Coffee. I have news. They met in the staff cafeteria. Alina looked different, lighter somehow. The fear that had haunted her eyes was gone. I heard from Charles, she said. He's making an announcement next week about Camilla, about everything. He's going to address the nation, talk about his mother's legacy, about moving forward with honesty and transparency.
Ow.
James stirred his coffee. Is Camilla okay? Alina nodded. She faced charges for the security breach, pleaded guilty, paid a fine, did community service, like any other citizen would. The press must have loved that. Actually, the public respected it. Seeing her take responsibility, not hide behind her title. Charles was right. Sometimes honesty is more powerful than protection. And the coronation? Postponed indefinitely. Camilla will remain queen consort. But without the ceremony? Without the crown? She said she prefers it that way. Less pressure. More room to just be herself. They sat in comfortable silence. So much had changed. So much had stayed the same. Margaret joined them. She carried a folder. Her face was serious. I need to show you something. I've been going through the Queen's papers. Like Charles asked? She opened the folder. Inside were letters. Dozens of them. All in the Queen's handwriting, she wrote to people, Margaret explained. Staff members, guards, nurses, people she wanted to thank, to remember, to honor. She pulled out 3 letters, handed one to James, one to Alina, one she kept for herself. James opened his with trembling hands. The letter was dated 2 weeks before the Queen's death. The handwriting was shaky, but clear. Dear James, it began. You don't know me. Not really. But I know you. I've watched you walk these halls for years. I've seen your dedication, your kindness, your integrity. James felt his throat tighten. I'm writing this because I know what's coming. I know there will be difficult times ahead. People will be afraid. Will try to hide the truth. Will choose comfort over courage. But I also know there are people like you, people who will do what's right, even when it's hard, even when it's dangerous. That's why I've left instructions. Why I've trusted you with something precious. Don't be afraid. Don't let them silence you. The crown is only as strong as the truth that supports it, and the truth needs protectors. Thank you for your service. Thank you for your courage. And thank you for making an old woman feel safe in her final days. It was signed simply. Elizabeth R. James couldn't speak. Tears blurred his vision. Alina was crying too. Margaret held her letter against her chest. She knew, James whispered. She knew everything that would happen. She was the Queen, Margaret said softly. She always knew. As they sat together. 3 people who had been brought together by duty, by courage, by an old woman's final wish. What do we do now? Alina asked. James folded the letter carefully, put it in his pocket. Right next to his heart, we keep her promise. We protect the truth, and we make sure her legacy lives on. Margaret smiled. She'd like that. Here at the next week, Charles gave his speech. He stood before the nation and spoke about his mother, about her wisdom, about her concerns, about her final wishes. He didn't reveal everything. Some truths were too private, too personal, but he revealed enough. He spoke about the need for the monarchy to evolve, to listen to the public, to earn trust rather than demand it. He announced reforms, new transparency measures, limits on royal privilege, accountability for everyone, including himself. And he spoke about Camilla, about her mistakes, about her growth, about how even Queen's consort were human, capable of error, capable of redemption. The response was mixed. Some praised him, some criticized him, but everyone agreed on one thing. The monarchy would never be the same. James watched the speech from his office. Margaret and Alina joined him. They stood together as Charles finished. My mother taught me that the crown serves the people, not the other way around. It's a lesson I forgot, a lesson we all forgot, but it's time to remember. She left us a gift, not just her memory, but her wisdom, her courage, her unwavering commitment to truth, and I intend to honor that gift every single day. The speech ended. The screen went dark. James turned to his friends. Do you think she'd be proud? Margaret didn't hesitate. She'd be very proud. That evening, James returned to the corridor outside the Queen's room. It had been unsealed, cleaned, turned into a memorial. People could visit now, pay their respects. Remember? He stood at the door. Remembered that night 3 months ago. The red blinking light. The fear. the danger, but also the courage, the friendship, the truth. "Thank you," he whispered to the empty hallway, "for trusting me." He didn't expect an answer. But somehow, in the silence of the old castle, he felt her presence. Felt her approval. The crown would survive. It always did. But now it would survive on a foundation of truth, of accountability, of courage, and that was worth protecting. James turned and walked away. His footsteps echoed on the stone floor. Behind him, the Queen's room stood silent, peaceful, but her voice would never be silent. Not as long as people like James, Alina, and Margaret remembered. Not as long as they kept their promise. The truth would always find protectors. And the Queen had chosen hers well. In the years that followed, the story became legend, whispered among palace staff, shared in quiet conversations. The night the guard found the camera, the night everything changed, details got fuzzy. Names got confused. But the heart of the story remained true. A dying queen, a hidden letter, and 3 ordinary people who became extraordinary when it mattered most. James never forgot, never stopped protecting the truth. He retired from the palace 20 years later, an old man with gray hair and tired eyes, but on his last day, he returned to that corridor one final time, stood outside the Queen's memorial room, and smiled. "Kept our promise," he said to the empty air. "We protected your voice." And somewhere in the history of the crown and the legacy of a remarkable woman, the promise lived on. The truth had found its protectors, and the Queen could rest in peace. Her voice had been heard, her wishes honored, and the crown, forever changed, stood stronger for it, because that's what happens when courage meets duty. When ordinary people do extraordinary things, when someone stands up and says, "Not on my watch," that's when legends are born. When history is made, when the world changes one brave choice at a time, and it all started with a guard, a blinking red light, and a promise to protect the truth no matter the cost.